Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio, broadcasting live from deep inside the heart of the future Liberty State. Sponsored once again by On Fire Ministries, in the legacy of Dr. Stan Monteith, bringing you the story behind the story and the news behind the news, where it's not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. It's about our hope not being in man, but in Jesus Christ. About not ending in prayer, but moving to action. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Father, deliver us from the evil one.
Welcome to Patriot Radio.
Good afternoon, everybody, fellow patriots, watchers of this show. Welcome back to another episode of Gen Z Stuff with me, Megan, and Pastor Matt Shea.
And a whole bunch of exciting statistics on Gen Z.
I know. I thought we'd get...
Because I was looking over your shoulder just now.
I thought it would be very interesting to talk about actual Gen Z statistics. You know, who is Gen Z? What years are Gen Z? What are the issues plaguing Gen Z?
Why is it called Gen Z?
I actually don't know.
That would be something.
Do you know?
It'd be something to bring up. So anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Well, if we're just starting at general top 2025 Gen Z statistics, I'm getting this from explodingtopics.com if anybody wants to go and see where I'm reading these statistics from. But there are 69.31 million Gen Zs living in the United States.
70 million?
70 million.
Dude.
Yeah, Gen Z is born between 1997 and 2012, and I think I always forget how big the generations, span.
Basically, after I graduated college.
Yeah, so I was born in 99, so I'm Gen Z.
Ah.
And then people born all the way in 2012 are also Gen Z. So, not to be confused with Generation Alpha, which is scary, to say the least. But here we have the Gen Z's greatest concerns, which would be the cost of living, feeling anxious and stressed most of the time, and AI are the biggest concerns of Gen Z. So 40% of Gen Z feel stressed or anxious most of the time. 59% of Gen Z thinks AI will eliminate jobs. And then we have this interesting one that says more than half of Gen Z follow and purchase from influencers, which I find quite interesting. But
I find it disturbing, actually.
Yeah. But I think my main focus here is the cost of living and feeling stressed and anxious. So what I want to know is why the cost of living is Gen Z's greatest concern. Why do you think
and
that
it's interesting. This actually explains why President Trump was elected and why Zoran Mamdani was elected. Because you're gonna be like, well, how are those two even on the same page? They're on the same page in one sense. They both addressed the cost of living.
Yep.
And so let's talk about it, because the cost of living has a whole bunch of different drivers, but really it starts with the understanding of inflation. What is inflation? And, most people have no concept of what inflation is. But, for example, if I have a cup here, okay, and this cup is worth $1, and then tomorrow I've got 2 cups in the supply line, but my $1 is still there, and that's all that I have is just the $1. Does that change the value of the cups?
Yes.
It can. It can. How about if I just have 1 cup, but I now have $2? Does that change the value of the cup?
Yes.
It can, yeah. So what inflation really is an artificial increase of the money supply. And how this happens is the Federal Reserve has computers, and essentially they don't print money, like actually physically print money, but they create money out of thin air.
Right.
On computers. And then Federal Reserve charges interest by creating that money to a series of banks in the United States, who then charge interest to another series of banks in the United States, who then charge interest to you. So watch this.
Okay.
So back in the 1900s, $1 could buy you a whole lot more than it could today.
Yeah.
That's because the dollar has lost almost 100% of its purchase power in 100 years.
Is that because you can't actually go to the Federal Reserve and exchange it for precious metals?
You can't. Back in the day, up until about the 1930s into the Roosevelt administration, really the Roosevelt administration was who, and the Wilson administration were who really corrupted the United States, both Democrats. And this is historic fact, but these are the guys that really corrupted the monetary and financial systems of the United States of America. And how they did it was in cahoots with the bankers. But back in the early 19-teens, there was a meeting at Jekyll Island that literally that's what it was called. And the bankers got together and they figured that what they were going to do is they were going to create a Federal Reserve System, but they needed some way to pay the interest on this money they were going to create out of thin air. And so the way they decided to do that was by an income tax.
Huh.
And so this is what's so fascinating about what Trump's doing right now.
Right.
So they created the Federal Reserve System. They created the income tax, supposedly through the 16th Amendment, although I argue that actually doesn't say what some people think it says.
Right.
Based on their own language and some of the original documents. And then they did the 17th Amendment, which was direct election of U.S. senators. Originally, U.S. senators were appointed by state legislators. Okay.
Huh.
And state legislatures would send 2 U.S. senators to Washington, D.C. And the reason this system was set up that way, it was actually a check against the misuse of federal money. And so because they took that away, federal spending ballooned, went up. The Federal Reserve began to create money out of thin air, and the American taxpayer ended up paying for it. So watch this. As they created more money, the value of things, okay, how much things cost, it went up. Okay.
Right.
And so they created an inflationary cycle, which is really, as Ronald Reagan said, a hidden tax. So basically, as this continued, this cycle continued, it was their way of controlling the economy. And what they said is there's going to be less boom and bust cycles and all this stuff. And it never ended up really actually happening. It actually made it worse.
Right.
So today, cost of living is so high for a few reasons. One is this inflation. And the second is because we had a lot of illegal immigrants in this country that were driving up the primary cost for most households, which is a mortgage or rent. So an artificial scarcity, because there were so many illegal immigrants in here, drove up the cost of houses, drove up the cost of rent, in addition to the fact that inflation was also robbing on the other end as well.
Wow.
So that is why cost of living has gone up. Furthermore, the cost of living has gone up because the United States has really depended on other countries to make stuff for us instead of having it done here. If we made it in the United States, there would be more jobs.
Right.
And when you create real wealth like that, it stays here in this country. And so what Trump is doing with the tariffs is he's trying to rebalance this. And essentially what Trump has been saying is going to happen in the next year is that he's going to eliminate, with the Congress, the property taxes,
which would be so awesome,
and eliminate the income tax. Now, I don't know if you've ever done the calculations about how much more money that would actually make you a month.
A lot.
It would make a lot of money. It would be a massive redistribution of wealth in the best sense of that term back to the people. Now, the second way that they did this was they did it through property taxes. Now, like for example, Washington State has 2 constitutions. The first constitution of Washington State was the 1878 Constitution. And in the 1878 Constitution, in Article 5, Section 23, it guaranteed title in allodium. In other words, a guaranteed title that could never have a lien put against it unless I signed a piece of paper. So what that effectively did is it banned all property taxes. So property taxes were used also to fund government. So now I'm funding government with everything I make and everything I own. And this system was actually completely abhorred by the founding fathers. They detested a system like that. They said that should never happen in America.
Right.
You should keep the fruits of your labor. That's one of the very simplistic ways, and I skipped over a whole bunch, and there's some overgeneralizations there. But that is the simplistic way of how we got to where we got today. If you eliminate the Federal Reserve, if you go back to a gold standard with precious metals backing money, where there's actual real value behind our money and not just the full faith and credit of the United States, like it was in the 1930s, where it literally said redeemable for, and you could go back and give it for gold. If we return to the system like that, where we eliminate property tax, eliminate income tax, that would be true freedom in America. And you would see more jobs and you would see more wealth for Gen Z.
You know, what's so interesting is the average age of a homeowner today versus 1980. I was looking into this and I was saying, what is the average age of a homeowner, first-time buyers? In the 1980s, it was typically late 20s, early 30s. So 29 to 31 is the typical age for a first-time home buyer. Early 30s, you know, and if you're buying another house, the age increases. Okay, the average age of a homeowner in 2025, the median age for all buyers is 59 years old. So 29 to 31 versus 59 years old. Median first-time buyers, if we want to connect first-time and first-time, 40 years old, which is a record high.
It is.
So the affordability crisis is what is really backing this. High mortgage rates, and people are saying, well, we're not making enough money. Well, we have probably, I think, less and less people going to college. But what's also interesting is most Gen Z people buying a home these days are not doing so by themselves.
Yeah, they're having a parent or somebody help them. Yeah,
it's actually somebody who's older than them. Mortgage rates are about 7%, and Americans need to make 6 figures in order to afford a median-priced home, which is currently more than $422,000, according to the NAR.
Right, so 20 years ago, the home prices were average home price about $250,000 in this general area that we're in right now.
Yep.
So if you bought that, your jobs, your wages, were very high. So you have also the issue back then. I could put a down payment. I could buy a home. It was anywhere, I think it was like 3.8, 4, 5%. Very affordable there. So you have all of these different aspects affecting home buying. You have illegal immigrants driving up the cost of homes and rent. You have the artificial increase of our money supply, which is affecting the value of everything. You have, on top of that, a scarcity of jobs now. And so Gen Z is forced to work for jobs that don't pay very much.
Right.
Now, when manufacturing comes back to the United States, there will be, as a matter of fact, more jobs. An industry like that brings the higher paying jobs back to the United States, which means more homes will be remodeled, more homes will be built, which means there will be also those jobs that have to be there. The big X factor now is AI.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. That's one of Gen Z's biggest concerns.
And it should be, because AI is also taking jobs. But it's not just AI. AI is taking bureaucrat jobs, which is a good thing, because bureaucrats actually don't produce anything for the economy. They're paid out of taxpayer money. So as a very simple economic analysis, they really don't produce anything. Manufacturing jobs produce something. They're taking something out of the ground or the air or the water. They're turning it into something that can then be used for the benefit of all of society. So if we look at it in those terms, AI taking bureaucrat jobs, that's actually not a bad thing. Robots now doing menial tasks, in one aspect, actually is not a bad thing either, because robots will be taking the jobs that would have been lower paying. So that would leave higher paying jobs in a market, again, that would be open for higher paying jobs. We have a population decline happening right now. So the more illegal immigrants that are taken out of the United States, the more robots introduced for those menial jobs.
Factory work, that type of thing.
Well, it doesn't necessarily need to be factory work, because there is some complicated factory work that cannot be done by robots.
Which is a good thing.
So people will have to be trained in that. Plumbing, electrical work, some of those jobs in construction cannot be done by robots. and we actually did an entire show on this, that there are jobs that'll be less impacted by AI and robots coming into the market.
Yeah.
That's where we need to shift. Also, the fact that there's a population decline, a lot of businesses are being sold to the next generation if the next generation is paying attention. So there are a lot of opportunities, but Gen Z is correct in, hey, what's up with affordability right now? That's absolutely correct. We need to get rid of the Federal Reserve. We need to go back to a backed money system,
Right.
which is run by the U.S. Treasury, not a group of unelected, bankers.
Right.
We need, and unaccountable too, bankers. We need to go back to that system. We need to bring jobs back to the United States of America. And we need to make sure that there are training programs so people can get retrained, cross-trained, whatever it needs to be, so they can actually plug into that system and the new opportunities that are there.
Yeah. And when we come back from the break, we are going to be talking about why a $30 minimum wage and a Muslim mayor is not the answer.
What if I told you could convert your 401k or your IRA into gold? While your retirement is being beat up by a volatile stock market and inflation, it could instead be resting safely in physical gold at a place of your own choosing, including your own business. Look, gold has increased 50% in just the last year. Stock market, it's been nothing but a roller coaster. So protect your retirement from market chaos by calling Verity Metals today.
And we are back from the break with a question that I have for Pastor Matt. So it seems to me that Gen Z's idea of a solution to this is a communist mayor in New York City. $30 minimum wage, free everything, free grocery store, free transportation, freezing of rent. Now, can you explain to some people, one, why this is a concern, and two, why this doesn't work at all?
Okay, so, well, first of all, communism has always failed everywhere that it has been tried. That's number one. Number two, it is a genocidal ideology that is rooted in Satanism. You can read Karl Marx's original poetry. Number three, communism makes everyone poor, doesn't make everyone wealthy. And number four, communism is so inefficient and you lose so much money in the bureaucracy that it actually makes it so the middle class can't afford anything at all because it's all being hoarded by the bureaucracy in special stores and special shops. How do I know this? Thank you for asking. Because my wife lived under that system.
Right.
She was part of the underground church in the former Soviet Union. It never, ever works. When somebody said $30 minimum wage, I would counter, no, that's ridiculous. I want 50. I want $50 minimum wage. I'm going to put in an amendment. Can we vote for $50 minimum wage? Now, I take that back. I want a $100 minimum wage.
It's ridiculous.
Well, $100 minimum wage. And I think I'm going to take that. I want $200.
Yeah.
Where does this stop? And by the way, if you do that, we're going to go back to that model again. What does that do? It introduces more money.
Yep.
Artificially in the system. What actually ends up happening is everything becomes massively more expensive. So if you really want to have cost of living addressed, don't vote for minimum wage or don't advocate for minimum wage. That's asinine. The math doesn't work.
It's true. It really doesn't work.
It can't work. So what are we really talking about? Value. We're talking about how things are valued. So that needs to be determined based on market indicators, not based on government. When government introduces, it's called a moral hazard. When government introduces something artificially into the system, that skews everything else.
Right.
So it should be, we bring manufacturing back to the United States of America. We back the currency. We get back to what real value is. And let me give you an idea of what real value is. An ounce of gold typically should be the price of an acre of land. Now, notice I didn't say like dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
I said an ounce of gold is typically an acre of land.
Okay.
Or a horse. Okay?
I like horses.
That was typically...
Oh, that was transportation back in the day.
That was transportation back in the day.
Got it.
So, an ounce of gold should be an acre of land. So I know what gold's real value should be based on how much an acre of land is in our economy right now. How much is an acre of land in our economy right now? It's about $5,000. Is gold to $5,000 yet? No. Should it be? Yeah. But when you get to that point, it doesn't matter the zeros on the end. It matters the proportion by which things are valued. So typically gold to silver was 10 to 1.
Okay.
So that would be $500 an ounce for silver. Well, where is it at now? I think it was just at 61 or 62 today. The silver market has been skyrocketing because it's been so undervalued. So to address real value is think about things in proportions. What would I use silver to buy back then? Well, what could I buy for $500 right now today? I could buy a suit. Typically, an ounce of silver could buy a suit. Okay,
A vacuum.
a really nice suit. By the way.
I'm
really
thinking,
nice vacuum.
Yeah, a nice vacuum. Some blenders. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Well, you're kind of going down the. Are you getting married sometime?
No. I'm just thinking of things on my wedding registry. That's all of the things that are $500.
That's hilarious. All right, so the point is with this, think about value in proportion. And right now, for Gen Z, if I was Gen Z, I would be looking at the trades that are going to weather this storm of AI. I would look at what actually has value and start investing in that. We don't need to become a rental culture. We need to go back to an ownership culture, because when you own your own property, there is a sense of belonging in community and a sense of responsibility in the community. Those aren't my words. Those are Thomas Jefferson.
You know, that's very interesting that you bring that up, because I was saying that I see a trend in Gen Z that we are moving away from home ownership, setting our roots down in somewhere specific, and we're renting. We're renting homes, we're renting apartments, condos, what have you. And even the prices of those are outrageously expensive in places like LA. Renting a condo or buying a condo is almost $1 million.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's not even a house, you know. And we have this trend of we're not wanting to send our roots down somewhere. And like you said, home owning is something that gives you purpose. It gives you something to work with, you know. But most of Gen Z is actually struggling with their mental health. 40% of Gen Z report mental health struggles. 46% was a year ago, but only 35% of millennials feel the same way. And
how many Gen X does it say?
Only 19% of Gen Z ages 18 to 26 consider themselves, quote, very happy, end quote.
So why is this happening? Well, there's a couple of things. We just touched on several. First of all, there's a lack of stability in their job, if they can even get one at all.
There's actually statistics stating how many Gen Zs are willing to just leave their job if they're unhappy.
Right. Which, if it's a lot, then they're going to be leaving a lot. So there's a lack of stability. Lack of stability in their jobs, lack of stability in where they live. And there's a lack of stability in society in general right now because of the lack of morals. So I'm going to answer this in reverse order. When you don't have morals, things become unstable, and it will gin up anxiety. The second thing is when you're on your phone all the time and you're reading and scrolling influencers and all these things on Instagram and all these things on Facebook and all these things on X and everywhere else, that actually is programming happening to you. And I want to really address this head on right now. In the system itself, in the algorithms, it is built in to make you anxious. It is built in to make you fearful. It is built in to get you off balance. It is built in to get you unstable. It is built in to get you thinking there's not really a lot of hope in the future.
Yeah.
Advertising, I mean, it should be very simple to think about. Advertising will play on fear.
Yeah.
Play on pleasure.
Yep.
Right? So what am I saying? It's playing on emotions, and it's playing on the flesh if we're talking from a Christian perspective. And so when you see the ads or you see the posts that are coming onto your feed, there's an algorithm that determines what posts come onto your feed, what you actually see.
Yeah.
So it manipulates your emotions and behavior because it makes you easier to control.
It's so interesting.
So if you want to get stability in your life, strongly urge you, just try this for just 5 days.
Yeah.
Just try for 5 days. Shut your phone completely off for 5 days. Don't use it. Lock it in something or have somebody lock it away.
Wow.
5 days. Don't use it. Keep it away from you, not scrolling. See what happens. See what happens to your emotions. See what happens to your stability, that little thing spinning around inside you all the time. See what happens. Just 5 days. Do it for 5 days. If you can't do it for 5, do it for 3. See what happens. Because the first day is going to be really challenging. And it's almost like you're being weaned off drugs.
It's like an addiction, and it's so interesting to me. Gen Z, I like to think of it as the digital generation. We are the guinea pigs for people that grew up with screens in front of us. The generation before us, they had TVs, right? They had DVDs, they had VCR, they had these things, right? But they didn't have smartphones. They didn't have laptops in their bedrooms. They didn't have this all accessible stuff right in front of their face from the time that they're growing up, which we did have. I remember getting my first iPod, getting my first laptop when I'm like 7 years old, and I have all of these screens. I'm playing these games. Like I remember being so young and having, pornography pop-ups, pop up on I'm playing a balloon popping game, and it's very crazy to me. And then we look at these statistics of nearly 1 in 5 Gen Z high school students have seriously considered suicide. And even to this day, I look at my phone and I get a lot of information about politics and what we do here on the show. But I'm also seeing like women that are my age or close to my age, that are incredibly successful, or, they look successful, they're gorgeous, and they have these beautiful clothes, and girls younger than me that have all of these things, right? And, they're either unmarried or they're married with no kids, and they've done lots of, procedures to make themselves look a certain way, but they're not completely forward about that. So as a young woman, you look at that and all you think of is, wow, I'm so behind.
Yeah.
I'm so behind. I'm such and such age and I don't have this amount of money, or I'm this age and I don't have that many clothes, or I'm this age and I can't afford to do, Botox or fillers and all of these things. And I'm like, it's something that I struggle with looking at these women online.
Right.
And it's a very real thing. And we have people getting things called buccal fat removal in their cheeks, where they're literally removing the fat pads in their cheeks to get a more chiseled face. Like, this is a trend. And so when they get older and they lose fat in their face like you do, they're going to look like skeletons.
It looks weird.
And it's so interesting to me that this is the standard that we set for ourselves in this social media age. But if you shut your phone off, you turn it off, and you aren't looking at all of these women and these people at certain stages in their lives and what they're doing and what their kids look like and what they're wearing, your life, I feel like, would feel much more fulfilled because you're not comparing it to everybody else's.
Exactly. In fact, you would be living out your destiny in your own life. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about what that actually looks like. What would it look like to live a life of fulfillment?
What if I told you could convert your 401k or your IRA into gold? While your retirement is being beat up by a volatile stock market and inflation, it could instead be resting safely in physical gold at a place of your own choosing, including your own business. Look, gold has increased 50% in just the last year. Stock market, it's been nothing but a roller coaster. So protect your retirement from market chaos by calling VERITY Metals today.
Hello and welcome back to this conversation about Gen Z and how we struggle in life and how we're trying to find our purpose and our destiny. What does destiny even mean? I would like to know that.
Destiny is God's design for your life.
I actually, not even joking, looked up the definition of destiny last night. You can ask Sawyer.
Awesome. Every person has a destiny, and it's your choice whether you walk it out or not. God wants you to achieve your destiny. He's rooting for you to achieve your destiny. He's actually ordering the universe so you can achieve your destiny, but you got to want to walk it out. And I think the problem today for a lot of Gen Z is they don't have a destiny.
They don't know how to find it.
They don't know how to find it. It's really this near thing. Like, what's the next thing I got to do today, tomorrow to, assuage that fear or fulfill that pleasure or whatever. It's just right here.
Or survive.
just survive.
Next paycheck.
Yeah, it's very emotionally based instead of destiny based, and destiny brings stability. So really, where we start is in the spiritual realm. We start with destiny. That's what brings stability. A family brings stability. Actually, starting a family. I hear people, I'm going to wait till I'm 29. I'm telling you what, we did. We waited.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Marry young, have children young, because when you get older, you don't have as much energy, number one. And number two, your body doesn't recover as quickly.
Yeah.
So just practically speaking, it makes sense, but it gives stability. Buy a home, buy some land, build a house. Well, I don't know there are plenty of educational things out there about how to do this. Buy a home. It brings stability in your life. Go to church. Serve other people. Actually, one of the greatest ways out of depression, the number one way out of depression. So we've studied this regarding veterans, and there are many people out there that have studied this, but I've had to deal with a lot of veterans just serving for 10 years, and guys call me. In fact, I got an email from one the other day. They have this idea that they can never get out of depression. They're stuck.
Right.
The number one way out of depression, above everything else, the number one way out of depression is serving other people. The number two way is exercise and getting out into the world. So prioritize sun. That would be the next thing I would do after serving. Prioritize getting out into nature. Shut your stinking phone off and
touch grass.
Touch grass. Go into the mountains. Go to the beach. Whatever. Get out of there. When I was growing up, and it's so weird to say that now because I don't feel that old.
Back in my day.
Yeah, when I was growing up, we were literally outside. When I was a kid, we were outside all day long until the evening when my dad whistled, we'd come back. We were building tree forts. We would go in a boat across the lake. Yeah. We would dive in the lake, swim down, catch clams. We did so much stuff. I never had depression as a kid. I was living large, and I knew I had a purpose in my life, and I was rolling. It was so fun. I would wake up in the morning and be like, man, what are we gonna do today? This is an awesome day. We need to get back to this idea, and the way to do that, serve other people, get out there in nature, prioritize sun, get a family, get a house, and find out your destiny. And how do you find out your destiny? Pray and ask the Lord, where do you see me in your kingdom? And God will answer that question. Now, I would also say that you need to be saved and you need to have your ears open so you can actually hear from the Lord. But God wants you to know that. And Gen Z seems to be a very spiritual generation. They want to find
spirituality. I would say a lot of them move in the wrong direction for that.
Right.
Because there's so many different types that appeal to people who have itching ears.
Yeah, who want power.
Right.
Sex. Money.
But they also want what they want, and they don't want to be told that how they're living is wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
So they don't go towards the Bible a lot of the times.
That's right. And so it's interesting. If you see somebody is driving a car and they're about to hit something, do you warn them?
Yes.
Of course you do. If you love them, you would warn them. If they're about to crash, you would warn them. You would stop them. If they're about to lose their life, you'd want them to live. You would step in, right?
Yeah.
And so I find it fascinating with the comments of, well, don't tell me what to do. I know what's best for me. And also, how do you think communism is?
Yeah.
Communism tells you what to do in every single area of your life. Literally.
Yeah.
So if you really, really value individuality and freedom, you would never vote for Zoran Mamdani. Okay. You would actually
people
want
don't
a free
understand.
mark. No, they don't.
They don't understand what they're being told. They don't understand how charismatic personalities can really shift your opinion on things. I mean, we have Zoran Mamdani on one end, we've got Nick Fuentes on the other.
Sure.
Both have incredibly charismatic personalities. They're telling everybody we need to be worried about Donald Trump. And we have guy over here literally saying Adolf Hitler is cool.
Yeah, but Adolf Hitler was a socialist and Nick Fuentes has advocated socialism. I mean, literally.
Yeah, he said the right needs to, people were asking what we meant by, he said he was a socialist. Well, he said the right needs to let go of the free market. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the free market is what makes capitalism a thing.
Hitler was a socialist.
Exactly.
And actually Benito Mussolini, who was the actual father of fascism, was also a socialist. In fact, he was the chief editor for the Italian socialist newspaper Avanti, which means forward, which, by the way, is where Barack Obama got his motto. So we have these. We also got to learn our history and the real history. I think another piece of stability here is we've got to know where we came from, right? And if you know the origin of things, you don't parrot it. You don't like when I hear people saying certain things and I'm like, that's a Russian active measure from literally the KGB in the 1970s. Why are you parroting what the KGB said in the 1970s? For example, this is the one that I talked about the other night at a presentation I gave. The Jews did it. All the Jews.
Oh my
okay.
gosh.
And it is so annoying because it was in the 1960s, Yuri Andropov, so he was the head of the KGB, then later it became the head of Soviet Union. Yuri Andropov comes up with the idea that they will create a fake document called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. They will make this document and then they will infiltrate this document into all the Muslim countries in the Middle East.
What's in the document?
I'm going to tell you here in a second. All the Muslim countries in the Middle East, okay, to inflame the Muslims against the West. So by 1978, General Mihai Pachipa, the highest ranking defector to the United States, stated that they had infiltrated 4,000 KGB agents armed with millions of copies of the Protocols of Elders of Zion into the Middle East. So they bring this into the Middle East to use Islamic countries as a buffer against the United States in the Cold War. And the central part behind this was the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And what it was the Jews did it. It's always been a Jewish conspiracy. The Jews are the problem with the world.
Well, yeah, something I keep seeing going around is this, I don't even know what it's called. Someone's talking about how the Jews believed in incest, bringing them closer to God and stuff like that.
Blood libel, they mix blood into the things they ate and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called blood libel. Yeah.
It's so interesting to me that we have a lot of right-wing people
But they're
doing
not.
this stuff and they're saying these things, but they claim to be Christians and they claim all of these things. And I'm like, when is the last time that you actually preached the gospel to your audience?
Right, really?
When was the last time that I heard the name of Jesus come out of your mouth in a good way? When was the last time that you actually read the parts of the Bible that say don't become stupid, basically, and think that you're special because you're grafted in? God's not forgetting about his chosen people. And then we're attacking all these people, and then I find it concerning how many people are backing people like Nick Fuentes, who says he hates the feminist movement and he thinks women shouldn't be able to vote and they belong solely in the kitchen. Well, here's the thing. The feminist movement was created because of men like him.
I would argue it was actually created by an active measure.
Another active measure. Is everything an active measure?
Well, that's what everybody's going to say. But I'm just telling you where it came from.
Is everything an active measure
The
at this point?
The Soviets picked up the idea that you could divide America along racial lines, gender lines, etc., and they exploited those.
Why do
Christians
they
in
hate
America.
us so much? What is the goal here? What's the end goal of all of this?
Because Satan hates Christians. The target has always been Christianity. Karl Marx said it. Vladimir Lenin said it. So Karl Marx invented communism. Vladimir Lenin perfected it. Mao operationalized it. And what's the common thread through all those guys? Oh, and Joseph Stalin. All of them hated Christians. The target has always been Christianity, because Christianity gets you on the path of your destiny and helps you walk it out. And when human beings are walking out their destiny, Satan loses.
Right.
And he is losing. And he has been defeated. But when we walk out our destiny, all the stuff that he's trying to do completely gets shoved to the side in the world. This has always been a battle between good and evil. And so, when I hear Nick Fuentes, he's not on the right. He said he advocates socialism. He's on the left, like he always has been. The Soviets always did this. They had controlled opposition. It looked like it was the right, but it was never on the right. National Socialism was an offshoot of communism.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we fought communists. Communists fought the National Socialists. No, Stalin invented it. He invented Nazis. He invented fascism as a determinative dividing point so he could fight them over control of all of Europe. They're both bad, right? The only thing is the antidote to that is the free market, free expression of religion, freedom and God-given unalienable rights that man cannot take away. That's why we believe this, because it gives the most amount of people the most amount of freedom and the most amount of prosperity.
So what would your advice be to young people? You said, get married, buy property, build a house, have a family. What would your advice be to young people that say, well, Pastor Matt, it's not that easy. It's just not that easy to find, as a woman, a good man. It's not that easy to find a good woman. It's not that easy to buy property, or it's not that easy to find my destiny. Like, it's easier said than done I see a theme.
Let me put it in a little bit of perspective. So it's harder to find a good woman in a bar than it is a church.
It's harder to wait.
So it's easier to find a good woman in a church.
Of course.
So go to church. Go where good women are, or go where good men are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fairly simple this way. Like, go where the good stuff is, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, why are we trying to go, find a diamond buried deep in the rough in a bar somewhere?
I have a question for you. What do you think about online dating?
What's interesting, online dating
that is the biggest thing in our generation. Like, that is what everybody does.
So online dating can, give psychological profiles and the whole thing, right? Compatibility and all this stuff, right? But at the end of the day, what makes people compatible?
The Lord.
It has to be Jesus.
So what do you say to Christians that are using Christian dating apps or Tinder or Bumble or Hinge, or there's so many of them?
Okay, fantastic. Now what? Who's at the center of your relationship, right? And if it's yourself at the center of a relationship, that relationship's going to fail, which gets back to the selfishness that we were talking about earlier, serving other people, right? If it's yourself that's the center of the relationship, everybody's like, oh, that's so-and-so's a narcissist, so-and-so's a narcissist. I would argue that we have a generation of narcissists. And that that we have narcissists calling each other narcissists, right? It's kind of
narcissistic tendencies, I would say. I don't know if everyone's a full-blown narcissist.
So what does that even mean? What's a full-blown narcissist compared to a soft narcissist light?
I think
what is that, right?
No, well, because I think certain people have narcissistic tendencies, right? Where they have certain areas of their life where they lean towards acting like having a narcissistic
let's just
problem.
Let's wipe away all of the stuff and just get back to it's selfishness. You're putting yourself at the center of everything. Put Jesus at the center of everything, and it solves the problem. Go to where good people are, and it solves the problem.
Okay, the definition for a narcissist is actually quite simple. Thank you, Oxford, for putting my
and it is?
Narcissist light to sleep. It is a person who has an excessive interest or admiration of themselves. So narcissists who think the world revolves around them.
So let me give you an example of this. I saw somebody recently posting online screeds against their husband, their ex-husband. Okay, ex-husband's a narcissist. So and so's doing this. So and so's doing that. So and so's, and this is not aimed at anyone in particular. So if somebody thinks they know who it is, they don't. Okay. So just screed against, and I was like, do you realize all the stuff that you're posting online is narcissistic? Because all of it is focused on how you were so this and so that and so this and oh poor me and what is that?
Yeah,
like you have an excessive, unhealthy interest in yourself. Why are you posting it online? Because you're trying to get people to go oh, and then like your post. Oh, I'm with you. I had one of those too. It's so horrible. And you're focused. It's selfishness.
Us girls got to stick together.
Right. It's selfishness. That was really good.
Thank you.
That was a really good imitation. Yeah. I could feel that one.
We do. Women need to stick together. We need to fight the man. Anyway, here are 5 key traits of narcissism.
Okay. So we're revolving around selfishness. Go ahead.
Right. It's great. Grandiose sense of self or self-importance.
Okay.
Exaggerating achievements, expecting to be recognized as superior, or feeling unique or special. 2, need for excessive admiration, requiring constant praise, attention, and validation from others to maintain their inflated self-image. 3, lack of empathy, which I think is key to when my thought of somebody who's like full-blown narcissist,
bordering... Instead of narcissist light.
Yeah, and bordering on like psychopathy. But anyway, Lack of empathy and inability or unwillingness to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others, viewing them as unimportant. A sense of entitlement, an unreasonable expectation of especially favorable treatment, automatic compliance with their expectations, or special consideration.
So every human being, when you engage in selfishness, you have one of these traits, right?
Exploitive behavior. Does that make sense?
It does.
Is that how I say? Is that how you say that word?
Just for themselves.
Yeah. Taking advantage of others to achieve their own ends, often forming superficial relationships that serve their needs. So I feel like every single one of us, in some sense, has acted in one of these 5 traits.
Sure.
However, when someone has like narcissism, they actively walk in all 5 of these things.
Okay, so we're making the definition up right now.
Well, I think that's what I think. It says these are the 5 key traits. These are the 5 core traits of narcissism.
Okay. So again, what brings stability? When you have a family, you've got to think about somebody else other than yourself, especially a baby, right? When you have a home,
Yeah, you got to pay for it.
and you got to keep it up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of service there too. When you go to church and you got to serve other people, and some people who are kind of annoying, and some people who really should be kind of helping themselves a little bit, but they're not there yet maturity-wise. Okay? So you still got to do that.
Yeah.
And you do it with joy, do it out of love. And all of a sudden, I'm not thinking about myself anymore. And all of a sudden, these traits get reversed. So instead of being exploitive, okay, I'm being a blessing.
Right.
Instead of thinking about myself, I'm thinking about others. Instead of praising myself or seeking praise for myself, I'm seeking to praise and honor others. Instead of, having this idea that I'm really that big a deal, I'm actually doing what the scripture says and saying, actually, I hold you higher than I hold myself, right? And you reverse all of these narcissistic traits.
Do you think social media has had
social media was designed
to create this?
To create that.
Why? Active measure. Let me guess. Active measure. Did I get it?
You did. Good job.
Yes.
But here's why. Because if I'm thinking about myself, okay, I'm in fight or flight mode constantly.
Yeah.
Or pleasure mode constantly, right? So what happens when I get into that? I'm easy to control. Because I know how to get to you now. Make you fearful or make you chase pleasure.
Who created this stuff? Whose idea was this? Is it the Russians?
Well, it is fascinating that it was
Mark Zuckerberg.
The CIA who partnered with some of these organizations and gave them seed money to start. As a matter of fact, you can go research it yourself. The fact of the matter is that it happened. So now we're here. So what's Europe doing? Europe's banning, and one country just banned social media for everybody under 16. Why? Would they do that? Why would they do that? Because of this. Now, the other part of it is we've lost critical thinking. One of the things that needs to be returned to our education system is formal logic and the identification of logical fallacies. When I hear stuff on the news right now, I just go, oh, that's a fallacy. Whatever, that person's just full of it. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle, what their political party is, if it's Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens. It doesn't matter. Okay, I know that what they're saying is a logical fallacy. I'm like, there's no evidence behind that. That's a logical fallacy. I can pick that out. I don't need anybody to tell me. I can analyze myself. So part of the problem is we aren't thinking critical.
Yeah.
But critical thinking is actually critical to destiny. And so when we come back from the break, more on that.
What if I told you could convert your 401k or your IRA into gold? While your retirement is being beat up by a volatile stock market and inflation, it could instead be resting safely in physical gold at a place of your own choosing, including your own business. Look, gold has increased 50% in just the last year. Stock market, it's been nothing but a roller coaster. So protect your retirement from market chaos by calling VERITY Metals today.
And welcome back to the break, and we are going to be talking about... Welcome back to the break? Back from the break. Sorry. We're going to be talking about
If I was a narcissist,
thinking.
I would have immediately corrected you and brought the spotlight on me. Wait, I just did that.
That's a problem.
I need to serve better right now.
I think you do. I think you do. Well, we were going to talk about critical thinking in schools and how they don't teach us that anymore.
we've been talking a lot about my problems. It's now time to talk about you, right?
No, seriously. What is critical thinking?
Okay, on the real subject of critical thinking. So it used to be taught formal logic, and it looked something like this. It was called a syllogism, that X plus Y equals Z, right? And you were taught how to think along the lines of, okay, how do I know X is true? How do I know Y is true? Because to get a good answer, you got to make sure you've got the right question asked, and you got to make sure you've got good input. So evaluating things for truth is part of critical thinking.
Well,
right?
then what is truth?
What is truth? Truth is reality as God sees it.
Right.
Wisdom is truth rightly applied. Knowledge is truth understood and accepted by the mind. And you can replay that and get that definition. Okay. But if you look at critical thinking, like I evaluate evidence. So when somebody's like, so-and-so did this, that's a lie. It's a lie. Give me some evidence.
Yeah.
What is your evidence? And then when I give you evidence and you're like, oh, you just made that up. No, we can actually go look at it right over here. We had witnesses or whatever. So critical thinking is evaluating what is true? How do I know that something is true? So this nonsense about you have your truth and I have my truth. That's just it's ridiculous, because you don't believe that with an airplane. Like, I want my engineer to be a radical truth seeker on building the airplane that I am flying in. I want him to be a radical truth seeker. There is no question. There's absolute truth in the ailerons, in the wheels coming down, a locking mechanism.
Could you imagine if he said, well, this is the way that I feel like we should land the plane, or this is the glue that I think that we should use to glue these parts in together to make the plane.
I'm going to ignore the wind right now. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Because I feel like we can make it through this storm.
So critical thinking being removed from the schools was part of the process of making people more easily controlled. Because if you can't think critically about it, then you're going to be easily manipulated. So when I hear...
That's our problem today.
I hear statements from people on, from Charlie Kirk assassination. My immediate question is, where's the evidence? Show me
Everything's based on a feeling. Everything is based on a feeling.
Well, I feel like that French president is kind of not a good guy. And I'm not saying the French are good or bad at this point.
Give me proof.
What is the evidence? And then how do I evaluate evidence? Okay, if one person comes and tells me of an incident they saw versus two people coming and telling me, or three people coming and telling me, okay, I'm evaluating evidence there. Are these people I can trust? Are these people that have a track record of being, accurate and truthful?
Yep.
I'm evaluating trust as well. And by the way, trust is not earned, it's evaluated. That's going to be a whole different episode. Trust is not earned, it is evaluated, because at any given moment, it is evaluated based on God's standard. At any given moment, if you have somebody that earns trust, at any given moment, they could just be biding their time, earning the trust to betray you. So in the intelligence world, there was a guy named Kim Philby. He was a British intelligence agent, and he was actually working for the Soviets, and he earned trust, went to the right parties, went to the right social circles, became a part of the right clubs, all that kind of stuff, built his way up, and then betrayed the country, right? So trust is always evaluated. So critical thinking is evaluating evidence, evaluating people. Do things make sense internally? When you give me a piece of information, does that actually make sense that would be true, right? It was the Mossad, the Mormons, and the National Guard that killed Charlie Kirk, and I'm kind of like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense right there, right? Like, it's too disjointed, too disconnected. And there's a couple logical fallacies in there, right? One is a false generalization.
And do you think that critical thinking is something that Gen Z lacks?
Yes, 100%. And critical thinking is critical, like I said. So one of the things that should happen is Gen Z right now, if you want stability in your life, take a class on formal logic. Paul Herrick, actually, is a guy that taught over on the west side of the state, had 3 books published by Oxford on critical thinking, on formal logic. Go find a book like that by Paul Herrick, or somebody else. Paul Herrick's not paying us or anything like that, but he is absolutely amazing at showing logic, truth from a Christian point of view, and critically thinking like that, okay, is absolutely part of being stable, because if I can critically think, I don't get anxious because I'm not afraid of something that I shouldn't even be worried about, right?
Right.
Oh, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? Is it actually going to affect me? Can I logically look at that and go, it's not going to really affect me. It's probably not going to affect my family either. Why are they ginning? Why do I feel like they're trying to make me afraid right now? And I'm identifying it ahead of time. So that's a very oversimplified version of critical thinking. And again, identifying what a logical fallacy is. When somebody tells me something like the Jews did it, okay, that is a false generalization. I'm going to turn around and go, hey, wait, it's intellectually lazy, but it's also a logical fallacy. What do you mean when you say that? Who?
Right.
Who specifically are you talking about? You're talking about George Soros? Okay, we can have a conversation. Let's name a name. Let's be specific there. Okay, what did he do? And you list off a bunch of things. Okay, what evidence do you have for that? Oh, well, we have bank records and we have, we have some pretty clear tracking for money and giving. And okay, I can then have a conversation. Now I'm thinking critically about something. But if I get a politician like Zoran Mamdani who says, well, we're going to have all this free stuff.
How?
Who's
paying for that?
I start asking who, what, when, where, how, why. Start asking those questions. That's a great place to start also with critical thinking.
Do you think that Gen Z might be significantly less anxious and stressed out about their lives if they learned how to critically think, find their destiny, and gain some stability when looking at their future?
It would eliminate anxiety. It would eliminate fear. And it would eliminate this roller coaster they feel like they're on in their lives. And they would be able to weather storms with a lot more resiliency. And the way to find your destiny is by giving your life to Jesus Christ. You can find teachings on destiny here from On Fire Ministries. I'm sure there's many others. And then learn critical thinking. So those are two things specifically that Gen Z can do. And then teach that to people around you. You'll see your life dramatically change.
Wow.
And what's the beautiful part about it, it doesn't matter what's actually happening around you. It matters what's happening inside you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Great advice. Thank you for joining us today on Patriot Radio. God bless you. God bless America. Love you guys. Have a good one.
Keep up the fight.